but not nearly as excruciating as the human ones heard on the Hill this week during the confirmation hearings for Supreme Court nominee Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson.
All right, so what they're talking about here is dog whistles. They started out the program with dog whistles playing, and I was considerate enough to not subject you to those high-pitched frequencies because I actually care about my audience, unlike NPR. Hello and welcome back. Thank you all for stopping by and supporting my work. I do appreciate it. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Now we're going to get into this broadcast from NPR, National Public Radio. They're talking mostly about child trafficking. I won't say which kind because I don't know if that's allowed on YouTube or not. I'm sure you can figure out which kind they're going to be talking about very easily by what they say. They're going to pull up some dog whistles here about Ketanji Brown Jackson now. Let's listen to those.
A glorious American moment was tainted by the Senate effluvia expelled by the likes of Senators Tom Cotton.
Do you think...
So they said it's a glorious American moment. Why is it such a glorious American moment? It wasn't a glorious American moment when Judge Kavanaugh was being nominated. It was get him. We gotta get him. We gotta stop him. He's terrible. He's evil. He's the worst human being ever. Not that I'm a fan of Judge Kavanaugh, but you can't have it both ways. You can't have it going, oh, well, it's wonderful when we nominate this female black judge. It's the most amazing thing ever. But a white man, he's evil just on the face of it. Don't you know? Crazy. I rewind a little bit so we might hear a little bit of just what we just heard. To just bear with me while I get back to the point where I wanted to hear all of what Tom Cotton said.
Effluvia expelled by the likes of Senators Tom Cotton.
Do you think most detainees at Guantanamo Bay were mostly terrorists? Or mostly, I don't know, innocent goat farmers?
Well, that might be an important question if the Supreme Court has anything to do with who's detained at Guantanamo Bay. Do you think maybe? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. If she thinks that we're falsely imprisoning people and putting them in Guantanamo Bay, and this is not a video about Guantanamo Bay, and, if she thinks that we're falsely imprisoning people there, it might be something that we need to know. I don't know. Just my thoughts.
And by Ted Cruz.
Let's go back to your favorite topic of this hearing, which is the criminal law cases you had as a district judge, and in particular the cases involving child pornography.
Rick Scott.
She seems to be very soft on sexual predators, people that have harmed our children.
But the most frequent.
They're going to say it's the most frequent. It's like we just heard those two. This is what she does. We've established clearly in the hearings that she's soft on people who take joy in the abuse of children or want to abuse children.
Far-right refrain that Judge Jackson went easy on child sex offenders debuted in Senator Josh Hawley's Twitter thread. He doubled down in a question to Brown about a ruling.
This is a case where you had an 18-year-old who possessed and distributed hundreds of images of 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and you gave him, frankly, a slap on the wrist sentence of 3 months.
Senator,
Do you regret it?
What I regret is that in a hearing about my qualifications to be a justice on the Supreme Court, we've spent a lot of time focusing on this small subset of my sentences, and I've tried to explain.
You're right. I mean, that's terrible tragedy. That's what you should regret is that you're soft on this abuse of children, and yet that's what they're focusing on in the determination whether or not you're going to become a Supreme Court justice. I would say that just on the face of it, if a judge is nominated because of their reproductive organs or their looks, their external appearance, then they automatically are disqualified. Period. That's it. You're just disqualified, hands down. You're not going to become a judge because you were nominated for the wrong reasons. Beyond that, if you're soft on the abuse of children and your rulings, I would say that should bar you from becoming a judge on the Supreme Court. That would be, it's like some of our most vulnerable citizens. What we want to do is we want to make sure that you allow them to be abused. It'll be good. It's going to be a good thing. Don't worry. No. The hell is this crap? Hey, you want to talk about dog whistles? We're going to get to dog whistles here.
Turned out to be a testing ground for conspiracy theories and culture war theories.
Judiciary Committee Chairman Dick Durbin of Illinois.
The more bizarre the charges against you and your family, the more I understand the social media scoreboard lit up yesterday. These are not theories that are in the mainstream of America, but they have been presented here as such.
People were doing.
Well, what happened with Brett Kavanaugh, the accusations of Brett Kavanaugh were not in the mainstream of America, but they were presented as such. So, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? That's how it goes. Turnaround's fair play. Where did these things come from? It's okay when you're doing it, Democrats, but it's not okay when the Republicans do it. And it doesn't seem like the Republicans are doing it nearly as egregiously as the Democrats are doing it. Not that I'm a fan of the Republicans or the Democrats. I'm not a fan of either one of them. I think they're all evil people, or a bunch of evil hairless monkeys, as Pop likes to say. But the thing is, call a spade a spade. We got the evidence. She's light on sentencing for people who are okay with the abuse of children. I don't know what to tell you. That's a bad quality for a judge to have.
Doing terrible things in that hearing room, but the child porn canard, flogged by Hawley, best known for cheering on the January 6th insurrectionists, was by far the worst.
It's not a new theme for Josh Hawley.
Melissa Gira-Grant has been following this for the New Republic.
He first came on my radar when he was the Attorney General of Missouri. One of his claims then was that sex trafficking, and particularly the trafficking of children, was the fault of the sexual revolution. This is somebody who saw this issue as essentially a culture war talking point. I think that's the same thing that we're seeing right now in these hearings.
I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, as far as this trafficking of children, it has been caused by the revolution in reproductive practices. I don't think that it is, because this sort of treatment of children has been going on for eons. People have always misused children in this way. I don't think that it maybe it got worse with the revolution, but I don't know. I'm not a historian. I'm not an anthropologist, so I don't know. Something to think about.
It's about preying on this very powerful fear.
Even if conservative columnists like, say, Charlie Sykes of The Bulwark or McCarthy of the National Review call him out on bad faith, it doesn't even matter to Hawley.
It's about creating chaos in the course of these hearings, putting out this point that seems to be very important even to the mainstream of the Republican Party right now, marshaling all of that energy into this moment.
Painting Judge Jackson as laissez-faire on child abuse.
It's not very effective at sinking her confirmation.
She is. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. That she appears to be very lenient. And her excuse is, well, these laws were made up when you might have a dozen images of this because you had to do it by mail. And now it's easy to just go on the internet and download thousands of images. So I don't hold them to account for all these different images. I'm thinking hey, 1,000, it should be the same. If you're into it or you're not. If you're going to have that stuff, then you're into it, I would assume.
Know that it's necessarily even meant to do that. People who would support Hawley, people who might support DeSantis, Trump, all of this sort of wing of the Republican Party, it signals to them, I'm on your side. I mean, Hawley started this with a series of tweets, and there's a group, one of their staff has been called to testify by the Senate Judiciary Committee. It's an anti-sex trafficking group adjacent to QAnon, and their leadership helped draw attention to themselves by leveraging the sex trafficking panic about the online store Wayfair from a couple of summers ago.
Yeah, that was when QAnon said that Wayfair was hiding children in cabinets. It was loony.
Completely ludicrous. And yet the CEO and founder of this group, Operation Underground Railroad, his name's Tim Ballard and used to work for the federal government. He puts up videos online talking about we don't know if that's true or not, and we'll let law enforcement sort that out. But it is a real issue. The same summer that QAnon was organizing these Save the Children rallies to mainstream their message, the summer of 2020 ahead of the election, this organization was also doing anti-child sex trafficking rallies the same weekend. And there were lots of people spreading QAnon rhetoric and messaging on their Facebook page, engaging with people who were volunteers for the organization. There was someone who was arrested in connection with January 6th who had just come from holding a fundraiser for this organization and then was later photographed with his feet on Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yep, it's all about QAnon. It's just QAnon and insurrection. QAnon insurrection. Look, children are trafficked in this country. There are children abused in this way in this country. Missing persons. I mean, we see missing persons ads. I don't see them as prevalently as I used to. Maybe there's fewer missing persons these days. I don't know. But what do you think happened to those people? They were shipped off to other countries where they're abused. They were hidden in someone's basement where they were. abused. We've seen them come out and go, look, I escaped. I was locked up in a basement for 20 years. You know, I'm that person that you all thought was dead. It's so this stuff does happen. I'm not saying that it's like there is some within the country, some like organized trafficking ring of children that, you know, are being moved around the country and going, okay, they're going to go from here to here to here. No, I think that they, from what I've seen, what I understand is the children anyway get shipped to the border and they get shipped out of the country. And so it's, you know, it's a terrible thing. This happens. I mean, I don't know. This is not my area of expertise, but this is kind of like the thing that's like, oh, this is not something we focus on. We don't focus on the number of children who are being tormented this way in this country. You hear nothing about it, but it happens a lot. There's a lot of children who have been through this.
So this is a group that has already, the insurrection notwithstanding, been welcomed into Washington, D.C. anti-sex trafficking circles. To have this hearing be a platform for them.
I like how she's laughing when she says anti-sex trafficking circles. Like it's such a joke that the people would be anti-sex trafficking. How dare they? What are they thinking? I mean, like, are you kidding me? One of the most horrific abuses of human beings. And she's laughing about it.
Is absolutely a hijacking of an incredibly high-profile event. Even this name being advanced signals to this same sort of base that we're going to use your talking points to challenge a potential Supreme Court justice.
Let's pause for a moment at Pizzagate. That helped jumpstart QAnon. That was the conspiracy theory about a sex trafficking ring run by Hillary Clinton and others out of a pizza shop in Washington. Someone showed up at the shop with an assault rifle. January 6th, insurrectionists shouted to the Capitol police officers that the officers were protecting pedophiles. It really seems like the rhetoric can and has incited violent action.
No, this is not rhetoric. We've seen the articles where these people are saying, oh, no, this is just another way of being sexually oriented. It's not a bad thing. We've seen these articles. What the hell? Are these just spoofs? Is that what they are? I don't think that they are. There's enough of them out there that people are like, yeah, this is how people really are, and it's fine. It's not a big deal. Whatever.
That was what was scariest to me about Pizzagate. It seemed like using this tactic in service of this ridiculous and yet potent conspiracy theory about the Democratic Party. It didn't take very long to get from Pizzagate to January 6th.
Have any of them looked into the actual nature and extent of child sex trafficking in this country?
I mean, the thing that's sort of heartbreaking in this political moment is most people who, as young people, have been in a situation where somebody took advantage of them sexually for something that they needed, whether that was a place to stay or a meal, some other kind of job or safety. That is what sex trafficking looks like for youth in this country. We are not talking about this MAGA fantasy of children being held in the basement of a pizza restaurant in Washington, D.C., which doesn't even have a basement, which was the Pizzagate story.
Donald Trump said, I know nothing about QAnon. And then he said, they are strongly against pedophilia, and I agree with that.
You know, when Hawley is sort of bringing
They can't let Donald Trump go. That's their big dog whistle. Look what Donald Trump dog whistled. How dare he dog whistle that dog whistler? Well, at the same time, they're dog whistling. Like, so what if Donald Trump, you're taking that completely out of context. I know nothing about QAnon. They're against this horrific act on children, and I agree with that. Yeah. I know nothing about this governor, or I don't even know if he's a congressman or governor or what he is, from Texas, who is against giving sex change surgery to children. I don't know anything about him, but I can agree with him on that. You don't do that to children. You let them grow up and then decide.
The specter of child pornography or pedophilia. In this moment, you know, it's a callback to that. The reality is many of the people who say that they want to end this, whether that's Hawley or Trump, don't even understand what the problem is, but they are tapping into something that actually had a lot of legitimacy before they showed up and tried to bend this rhetoric for their purposes. It is about sort of painting your enemies, not just as like political.
They're bending this rhetoric for their purposes. Okay, let's assume that they are. It's like what the conservatives say about climate change, it's global warming, by the way. Global warming. It's not happening. It's not happening. No, the Democrats are bending it to support their agenda. It's happening. It's definitely happening. There's so much evidence out there that it is happening. But don't let a good crisis go to waste. The Republicans are doing the same thing with this.
Political foes, but as like actually evil people.
Don Moynihan wrote in his Substack that the same actors who constructed the anti-CRT panic are now actively creating a new moral panic, or really invigorating an old one. You see the same actors involved?
Ironically, they have somewhat of a more intersectional understanding of the way that they're bringing these attacks.
How do you mean?
Well, they see that these are interconnected issues, that going after people's fundamental rights, whether that's around gender or sexuality or race, is advantageous for them because they have a group of people to sell on this message. Like, look, if these other people have rights, children are endangered.
You've written about the child abuse.
The thing is it's been said, this is going to be a slippery slope. If we legalize gay marriage, it's going to be a slippery slope. We legalize these relationships, it's going to be a slippery slope. And what's happening? We're seeing all these things come up, these people challenging these things that is going to keep them from grooming our children. And yet they're like, no, that's not about grooming children. They should know about that. No, it's about grooming children. Because as I've stated in previous videos, the difference between homosexuality and heterosexuality is intercourse, or what we typically would call sex. Because lesbians don't have, well, maybe they do with their fingers, but they don't have intercourse. Because, like I say, I have loved many men in my life, or at least I loved some men in my life, at the very least. But I've never wanted to induce orgasm in any of those men that I've known and loved. No, never. And I've never wanted them to do that for me either. I don't want them to touch my reproductive organs. I don't want to kiss them on the mouth or anything like that. So, the difference between being heterosexual and homosexual is sex. That's it. And children don't need to know about that. Children are going to know about this stuff anyway. I knew about it when I was a kid. I knew there were gay people. Do you think the kids are so stupid or so unobservant? They don't know that there are gay people in the world? They don't need to know about sex. And this is what this is all coming down to. We need to be teaching our children about sex. They don't need to know that stuff. Let them be kids. That's what makes life so much better for children. It does. If you keep that away from them and let them be kids, let them have this magical belief about the world, and they can enjoy their childhood that much more. Why do you want to make children adults so early? That was kind of like the big thing that we accomplished. Children used to have to grow up really quick. Children were getting married at 14 and stuff because they were considered adults by that point. Not that long ago in the Western world. I mean, you're talking 150 years ago in the Western world. And even girls were getting married at 14 to adult men, even maybe 100 years ago in this country. So you don't want kids to grow up by 14. You want to see them playing video games, having fun, running around on their skateboards and their bikes and causing minor mischief. You don't want them breaking the law, but being an annoyance and a nuisance. Or do you want them going, oh yeah, I'm ready to be an adult now. Yep, I'm gonna have babies, because there are 14-year-olds who have babies. There are 13-year-olds who have babies. Do you see how society's crumbling now? You freaking progressive idiots. Society is crumbling since we started saying, so it's okay for teenagers to have babies. These people that we want to be children, we do this adult thing. It's fine. It's fine. These people just want to see everything that is good burned to the ground.
Rhetoric in Republican messaging defending the Florida legislation dubbed the Don't Say Gay bill by opponents because the bill seems to bar any discussion of sexual identity. That is regarded as harmful to children, not sexual activity or sexual advocacy, but merely an acknowledgement of different sorts of sexual identity.
As I just explained, this is sexual advocacy. This is explaining to children the difference between homosexual and heterosexual. The truth of it. That's what sexual advocacy is.
It's written in such a vague way. Ultimately, the judgment call comes down to, do you want to open yourself up to a lawsuit from the most conservative, most homophobic, most transphobic parents in your district? And that's how you have to judge how you're going to conduct yourself in your classroom, your library, your after-school programs. Then DeSantis is trying to throw up this fig leaf of like, no, it doesn't say don't say gay. Where does it say that? Well, of course it doesn't say that. This is part of DeSantis trying to launch himself even onto a larger stage.
It doesn't say don't say straight either. It's not about gay or straight. This bill is about no sex. Don't bring sex to children, especially don't do it in secret. If you need to talk sex with children, then do it in such a way that the parents are involved. Because we've seen where schools are grooming children. We've seen where schools are going to children and saying, hey, look, you're not feeling very well, we're going to do this thing for you. And then they start teaching them that they are the opposite gender. They're trans or they're gay or something like that. And they say, no, you can't tell your parents about this, can't tell your parents about this. And the children adopt this lifestyle that is antithetical to what they truly want in their hearts. And then they have a miserable life. And then all of a sudden the parents figure out and get involved, and then they have to deal with pulling their children out of the school, moving away, and re-educating their children into who they're supposed to be.
He now is hiding behind this idea that, well, if you're against this bill, then you must be for endangering children. And as his press secretary put it, you're basically a groomer.
Let's talk about the term groomer, because it's coming up everywhere.
It prohibits the grooming of children by public school teachers. This evil that we're facing is grooming young children for sexual abuse.
Oh my God. When did our public schools, any schools, become what are essentially grooming centers for gender identity radicals?
It's such a pernicious and kind of old-fashioned, in a way, claim to make about gender and sexuality, right? You know, Laura Ingraham specifically sort of updates it when she says schools are, you know, grooming grounds for gender ideology. What it is for them that's scandalous isn't, you know, LGBTQ people broadly, but like trans and gender nonconforming people specifically. And then it becomes a very helpful cudgel to sort of like go after LGBTQ rights overall.
What rights are you being restricted? When are these rights being restricted? Tell me, like this big bad boogeyman that we're going after these LGBTQ people. When is that happening? Where is that happening? They have been given every single right that straight people have. And then we have one little thing come up in Florida, one state, where we're like, hey, look, don't talk to little kids about sex, especially in private. That's like not okay. What are you thinking? You can't do that. Oh my God, they're going after gay people. Oh no, they're evil. They're going after trans people. Arr. No, whatever.
But it sounds really scary to be told that if you stand up for LGBTQ rights, if you stand up for your trans students, your trans kids, you essentially are saying child abuse is okay.
Circling back again to...
It's not about standing up for the trans kids thing. Way less than 1% of people in the country are trans. Only a few percentage of people in the country are gay. Single digits. When I was a kid, we were always told it's 10%, it's 10%, it's 10%. No. I'm like, I know, lots of people. 10% of the people I know are not gay. Yeah, you could say that's anecdotal. I'm like, hey, but I don't know anybody who says that they know like 10% of their friends are gay or anything. Even gay people I know are like, not like, yeah, 10% of the people I know are gay. No, they're like, no, I know a few gay people. Out of the hundreds or thousands of people that you might be in contact with at that point in your life. So this whole notion that we need to be defending these few people, no, it's not about her. It's about keeping this information away from children. We don't need to talk about it. It's just like Morgan Freeman says when he's talking about race. Don't talk about it. Look, we're all human. That's what it is. We're all human. There's no race. Start treating people like that. No more racism. Start treating people like they're human beings instead of their sexual identity. Huh? What do you know? Huh? Wow. No problems. But no, you don't want to do that. You want to treat people as if they are only their sexual identity. And so that means that people are going to have to go, well, I need to identify as something. I need to identify as something, especially children who don't have a worldly perspective. And then they're going to start identifying as whatever thing is going to get them the most brownie points.
Judge Jackson. It seems to me that this marks kind of a great leap forward in the presence of this rhetoric, which was percolating for so long online, but didn't really take up residence on Capitol Hill.
It is not the first time that people who believe these kinds of things have arrived in Congress, right? We have Marjorie Taylor Greene, also Lauren Boebert, though she says she no longer supports these things.
Yeah, they're evil people, those Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, who want to have the country be fair and just for all.
It's also an eerie sort of full circle moment where, Ketanji Brown Jackson was actually a federal judge involved in sentencing the Pizzagate gunman. And he got a 4-year jail sentence. She saw that this wasn't just sort of a freak act of violence. She described it as something that was utterly incompatible with our constitutional scheme and rule of law, that this was meant to undermine democracy. And yet, when that judge is up for a Supreme Court seat, this is going to be the thing that they reach for. It's a very high profile showing for people like Hawley and others to mainstream this sort of QAnon panic about pedophilia and child abuse into what should be an incredibly serious and generational shaping process of putting a new judge on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's generational shaping only because she's a black woman who doesn't even know what a woman is, honestly, right? That's what they want to get away from. This at the same time, they want to make identity the number one thing. I don't know how to identify a woman. Your identity is the most important thing. What? You people are so ridiculous. You make no sense whatsoever. And you talk about this like you're so reasonable. Like, oh, no, this is just about like being this and that and the other thing and blah, blah, blah. And, like, you don't make any sense, though. You make no sense. We shouldn't be not acknowledging people who are gay or lesbian or trans or bi or any of that stuff. We shouldn't be. But by the way, those are your most important characteristics. And if you are one of those things, you're better than a straight person. You realize that doesn't make any sense? I don't understand you people. What the hell?
Melissa, thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Melissa Gira Grant is a staff writer at the New Republic and author of the forthcoming book, A Woman is Against the Law, Sex, Race, and the Limits of Justice in America.
So I left that part there in at the end because I wanted you to know who these people were, at least who this woman was that they were interviewing. I think this was Here and Now on NPR. I don't remember for sure what broadcast this was. Doesn't really matter. You just start listening to the radio and hear this stuff, and it's like, wow, you people, they're crazy. I don't know why they think that this is the most important thing, and they're so dog whistling about this. Don't say gay bill. Like they're calling out, like, oh, Congress is dog whistling about this Ketanji Brown Jackson, but like all you're doing is dog whistling about this bill in Florida, which is to protect children. And you're saying it's not, and yet you can't really point to how it isn't to protect children. You say, oh, it's written so vaguely they'll be able to sue you. It's so vague. Okay. Well, then why don't you write up a bill that is not vague, that keeps people from suing them, but yet protects children, and present that and say, this is the bill that I want. You can't do that. You can't, because you don't even know what you're talking about. Anyway, I definitely wanted to talk about this because I heard this and I was like, this is just crazy, and I had to say something about it. But thank you for stopping by. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. It only takes a moment to do all those things. And then I'll see you in the next video.